I wanted to share with you my method for finding really great places to stay that are affordable when you're headed out on a dive trip. And I'm going to use my current example of what I'm working on right now, which is we are headed on a cruise out of Tampa. And we want to go a day early and go to the aquarium and dive the aquarium in Tampa. I'm not positive that's going to happen. Looks like they're booked up, but maybe it's going to work. So we want to add on a night or two before the cruise in Tampa. So the first thing that I always do is I go straight to Airbnb, and you know the little heart thing. If you don't, you should find out about that. You click on little heart and you set up a list, and it's a list of everywhere that you might want to stay when you're in an area. And so sometimes I'll put in some filters. Usually I'll put in the dates to make sure that the prices I'm seeing are the actual dates that are available and at the prices that I expect them to be. Because sometimes when you just like things on Airbnb and then later you look at specific dates, the prices are sometimes lower, sometimes higher, but I'd rather just know right up front what they really are. So I go into Airbnb and set up a list of everywhere that I think maybe has potential. Then what I do is I go back and I consult the list and I decide which ones are actually worth jotting down on paper. And it looks something like this. Now, don't let that scare you. I know that looks crazy, but it's got a whole bunch of things here. It's got my steps, it's got what I'm looking for, and it's even got some hotel information. So what I do is for my grids, I always set up a grid and I always put the name of the place so that I can find it again, so I'll know which one it is on my list. And then I put the price so I know what the price is for whatever length we want to stay, including any of the cleaning, taxes, things like that. This time I actually had on my list that I would like a place with a pool or a hot tub, so that was included. I had a grid on here also, a whole column that was just for views, because we kind of want a place that has a view of channel side so that we can see the ships coming and going. I also had a little column for hot tub just in case if there was maybe two places that were very similar and that would be the thing that would swing it. And also kitchen, what sort of facilities they had, and the location. Was it close to a grocery store? Was it walking distance of what we wanted to walk to? All of those things. So at the beginning, this is completely empty, and by the end, I've got all sorts of things filled out. This is a little bit further along, so I'll leave a picture of it when it wasn't quite so filled out. At this point, I've already eliminated some things because somebody said squeaky bed or somebody said roadway noise. A couple things are circled that I really like one said they had a really soft bed, one said they leave wine for the people. Of course, we could just bring our own wine. Maybe there was a good price on here. And then I start looking. Once I figure out what the Airbnbs are, then I go ahead and look at what the hotel rates are in the area. And because it's right before a cruise, there are a couple things that complicates it, because there are a couple things I've got to look at. I've got to look at what's the hotel rate, what's the Airbnb rate, what's the rate of a hotel with parking for the time that we're going to be gone, or what's the rate of hotel or Airbnb if we have to add on parking at a lot outside of either of those. And so on my grid, I have the total cost when all of those things are added up. That way I've got everything. That way I know the whole total final price. And sometimes the price is what's going to make a difference for me. Okay, so quick review. So first I go on Airbnb and I set up a trip. And then I populate that trip with everything that I found that I liked. You click on a little heart and that saves it into that trip list. And I make sure that anything I'm saving for that trip has got the dates so that it has the correct prices. After the Airbnb search and making a grid and trying to identify what are the most important things to do, then a lot of times I'll look on Google Maps and I'll see exactly where all the Airbnbs are, where it is that we want to be, and where the hotels in the area are. In this case, in Tampa, downtown Tampa, where we want to stay, where we want to have a view, hotels are pretty pricey down there. And so it's been a real dilemma of trying to figure out which would be the better bargain, if it's going to be an Airbnb and then a parking lot, or if it's a hotel that includes parking for the time that we're gone, or if it's a hotel and then parking and an outside lot. So I had to add all these things up completely to figure it out, and then kind of cross-check everything and make sure that I had added in all the taxes and anything like that. Another thing that I did for this trip was I figured out, sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, if we stay in an Airbnb, we'll save a lot of money on food because we'll cook. Will we really? I mean, we'll make coffee and, toast a bagel, and that'll save us 20 bucks right there, not going to breakfast somewhere at a coffee house. But how much would we really save? And what if we just go to the grocery once we get there and get a few things? Or what if I go ahead and prepare everything here at home and then take it with us? And then I think, oh, it's Tampa. We want to go to Ybor City. We want to eat kind of locally. And so I'm kind of on the fence about that. I think that one's a wash in this case, because it's not like Port Canaveral where you're going, yeah, I don't know if there's anything super, super special. But in Tampa, because the hotel that we were looking at staying has got a free shuttle. That's another thing on the grid, is whether or not you can walk to the free shuttle from any of these places. And so that's the thing, do we want to go to Ybor City? Right away on my, and I call these a conflict resolution list, because I'm resolving a conflict. Right away, I crossed off 2 places that seemed pretty cool, but actually they were really, really cool little cottages. But I crossed them off because they were not within walking distance of the area where we want to stay. They did have bicycles. We could bike down there. And then we thought, well, what if it's pouring down rain? Are we really going to want to bike down there? And then if we can't bike down there to the Channelside area and the aquarium, then we're gonna have to drive. And if we drive, we're gonna have to park, and all those things add up. So what happens is once you set up your whole grid and you figure out what's the market, what can the market bear, what price do you definitely want to stay under, what's it worth to you to stay, and then you figure out which of the amenities are the most important. Like, is it the places that have a grill, or is it the places that have a gym, or is it the places that have an incredible view? And just by doing this, we have managed to stay in some of the coolest Airbnbs you've ever found. So once I went through all this and I really, really, really narrowed it down, I narrowed it down to 5. There it is. I've got 5 choices, and 2 of them I eliminated because they're not close enough to the site. 1, believe it or not, is a hotel, and 2 are Airbnbs. And so my last thing is going to be to figure out which is more important. Is it the pool and the gym and the kitchen, or is it the river views? Is it the availability of a coffee machine so that we don't have to take our coffee kit? Or is it the bottom line? Is it the price? And I think, believe it or not, this one time, I think we're kind of leaning toward just staying at the hotel. The price at the hotel with parking is over $100 better than if we stay in one of the Airbnbs and then park off site. And I think right there, I don't think we can eat $100 worth of stuff beyond. I don't think we're going to save $100 in cooking at the Airbnb by staying at the hotel. So for once, it doesn't happen all that often, but for once it looks like we are going to stay at hotels. Looks like that's going to win out. And really, a lot of budget travel and budget is just planning how are you going to get the most bang for your buck. That's really what it is. And sometimes I'll tell you, an Airbnb is so much nicer than a hotel. And there are a couple reasons why. First of all, if it's a home, it's completely separated, unlike a hotel where people are coming and going. The thing about the hotel and people coming and going is sometimes they're coming and going at odd hours of the morning and the night, especially if it's anywhere near an airport. You know what I mean? It could be noisy. The other thing is, if you're at an Airbnb that's a standalone, less likely to have noise from children, from cars, things like that. Actually, you might be more likely if it's a home on road to have some car noise, but less likely to have a lot of noise from people right next to you. A condominium, which is what you're likely to find on an Airbnb, generally they're set up so that the bedrooms are back to back and then the kitchens are back to back, and that way you have a lot less noise from whoever's next to you. I mean, they're built so that people could live right next to each other and not hear each other. So that's another reason a lot of times for us, an Airbnb will just win out over hotel room, just the noise of having to hear somebody else's television, things like that. And then some of the other factors are the cool factor that a hotel, that's just a standard experience. But a lot of times these Airbnbs are really cool. They're really different. They're really unique. And sometimes it's just fun to be a little bit more local. But like I said, every once in a while, it works out that the hotel just ended up being the better deal in this case. I haven't booked yet because I'm still not completely convinced. I've got to decide, is it worth another $100 or a little bit more to stay on Channelside by staying on Riverside? But I'm going to make a decision, and go with it. But the thing is, I don't feel like, do you remember when that website came up where you could bid on airline tickets and things like that? And I would always bid in the smallest increment possible. And you remember how sometimes if you went in there and you just put a bid and they accepted it right away, you thought, I wonder how much money I left sitting on the table. I wonder how much less I could have gotten it for. Well, that's the thing. If you go ahead and you really work through and analyze all of the options, by the time you make your decision, you know for sure you've got the coolest place, you've got the best place, it's got the best view, it's got the best whatever, and you're going to have the most fun of all. And that's how we end up staying a lot of cool places. So if you like my content, let me know. Let me know if you have any tips or tricks for finding the best Airbnbs. I always read all the reviews. That's one of the things that I do. And I hope you are also traveling soon. I hope that you are planning some dive travel for the winter break. I know that I am, and I hope you're going to be in the water pretty soon, and I hope it's warm water. Hope you're not having to wear a dry suit. But I will see you soon and let you know how the next part of the planning goes. Talk to you later. Bye.